Hey Valley family, I hope you're well. So I'm Frank, if you don't know. I'm that guy that's married to that girl Kathy who did a awesome devotion the other day. So I'm not, as a husband, I'm not sure how you follow something awesome like that on adoption. So forgive me if this is a bit subpar to hers, but yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, I feel privileged to be part of the sort of giving devotions, and what I really wanted to do, I didn't wanted to do some expository teaching or some theological thing. I actually just wanted to give an encouragement, and something that's close to my heart is the marketplace, is work, and there's for those who are in any sort of job right now, and it doesn't matter whether it's formal or if you're full-time mom or carer or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's a bit stressful, and I suppose my heart is just I wanted to talk to that, and I wanted to leave you with an encouragement. And for me, an encouragement, from what I understand, encouragement is to install courage. It's for you to walk away from this, hopefully feeling a little bit, I think, that you can go a little bit more the extra mile. And that's my heart and purpose in this. And I suppose, whilst it's safe to always be in theology, I just wanted to, obviously I'm going to be referring mostly from Matthew 25 verse 14 mostly, so the parable of the talents, and also looking at the kind of theology of work a little bit, but I'm again not going to be doing a big teaching. I just want to refer to it and then sort of speak more practical, and I've got some feedback which I'll go on to, and then leave you with a few points, and that's really it. And what I wanted to do was I just wanted to kind of weave the current work circumstances that I think we find ourselves in, particularly in the marketplace, with the theology of how we were created to be fruitful and creative, and how we respond to this about who we are and who we've been created in by God. And let's just start off with I suppose the last few weeks. Now, I've been seeing a lot on social media, these people that sort of go out, and this has been such a nice time to take a rest, spend time with the family, and kind of reset everything, and pause and reflect and all this stuff. And, to those people, I'm really so happy for you, because that's just not has been my experience. And this is kind of an honesty moment. I work for a drinks company. Some people might not necessarily like that or disagree or agree with that, but I work for one of the biggest drinks companies in Africa. And obviously because of the lockdown, we have not been able to earn any revenue. So to say that my work environment has been a bit of a pressure cooker is a bit of an understatement. And I suppose what I want to share with you is maybe some of the observations and things out of that. But if I can just be real and honest, the Ford household has not been one that's necessarily relaxed. If it wasn't for my wife, I don't know where we would be, because I think she holds everything together, quite frankly. But for me, really, I've just been stuck in our office the whole day, not just during the week, but the weekends sometimes. And it hasn't definitely not been 9 to 5. There's been some sort of 20-hour days. And this is not a woe is me. This is not to get any sympathy. It's more to, I think, just be real for those other people that are also, I know that they're going through the same thing, and it's not easy, and you have to balance everything, and it's stressful with some work where you're not earning any revenue, or there's no cash flow, or there's your work is actually even gone under. There's a lot of those real situations out there, and I suppose why I'm saying this is just to empathize, and just to say not everyone has had this kind of beautiful 8-week journey that you can just kind of do nothing and reflect. Mine's been the opposite, and hopefully some of that's what I wanted to chat to you about. Maybe we'll bring a bit of hope, maybe, or just even if it's I know how you feel, that's often just helps us a little bit. So there's been very stressful. I have not been good at balancing my time with my family, my wife, prioritizing. I feel like there hasn't been that luxury, and but hopefully there will be an end. So yeah, so if you're the same, I don't want to give you a high five. I just want to say I love you and I understand, but we'll get through this. And I suppose that's all I wanted to say. But just on the whole theology of work, and I think it's important to note that in terms of, where you find yourself in whatever work you do, is just to call out that, the whole concept of work is not as a result of the fall. So we're not being punished for this. Okay. Work was created before the fall. And if you're not sure about that, just go to sort of Genesis 1, 27, 28. It talks about how we made in God's own image, and, to create, to be fruitful, to multiply, and, fill and subdue the earth. And that's really be a custodian of it as well, manage it well. And that's really where our mandate came with work, and God did the same in the 6 days that He created the earth, and then obviously rested on the seventh, which is important. I don't right now, it's a bit scarce, but it's important. Is to get that Sabbath space. So just to let's say reset our minds. Work is not a punishment. It was before the fall. What happened, obviously, when you go to Genesis 19, yes, God said to Adam, now you're gonna sweat to produce food, and yes, and that obviously probably feels like that now on steroids. But remember, Jesus came and redeemed all of that. So let's not get caught up into that mindset. Work is something that is a God-given gift. It's something that was given to us as what the Creator did. So we can confidently not just be redeemed, but run to the Creator when we feel out of our depth in times like this. And I don't know about you, I feel out of my depth, and I might give a few examples of that. So let's just get that right up front. Work's not a punishment. It's a God-given gift. What's difficult right now is there has been a lot of people that have lost work. And I'm probably don't know what to say to that other than listen to a couple of things that maybe I want to bring out of Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. And what I wanted to say, so Matthew 25, again, I'm not going to read it verse by verse, but Matthew 25 from verse 14 onwards is really, to the end, is really what I want to talk about. I think to maybe put it up like over here is probably a bit much, but just read it when you can. But as we know, Matthew 25 is a story of a master or a owner going away on a journey, and it talks about three servants, and the servants get, and some versions refer to it as gold or talents, but one gets 5, one gets 2, one gets 1, and I find their responses interesting, and I just want to kind of look at that and maybe draw some parallels into kind of how to respond at this time of a lot of uncertainty. And the things, Matthew 25 is something I've spoken about before, and you could just, there's so many layers to it. You could talk for hours, and that's not the purpose. But the things that stand out for me is that each is given to his own abilities. The value of a talent is quite interesting, and I've done a bit of research in this, and there's lots of things around it, but let's just agree on one thing. The value of a talent was worth a lot. And that should tell something on, I think, the value that God puts on us, or what is given to us in terms of our abilities. And I think the value of a talent, or one talent, was, I think, something like worth 15 years worth of wages, one talent. So it wasn't like a guy, that was sort of just given a few shekels. These was like sort of kind of hardcore, valuable things to be custodians of and to look after. So, and then I suppose the response is something that we can maybe learn from and draw from, actually, and just be encouraged, is that the first two are seen to put these things to work at once. That says a lot. I think it says a lot about not just their work ethic, but also perhaps their relationship with this master. Because when it comes to the last servant, we know responded something like, "I knew you to be a hard man, harvesting where you do not plant, etc., etc." Which obviously refers to someone that owns land that owns it no matter what people do, so he can harvest even if he doesn't plant. So that part, it was interesting how that servant responded in a way of fear and went and just didn't think of, and only thought of himself and buried something and played it safe. And of course we know the reaction to that is, got taken away and was given to the others. And I suppose the point there is that maybe the third one got it wrong and thought he knew the master, but actually the master was quite different to how he really was. And there was maybe something more of the truth in the response of the first two servants, where I think they were given these things, and they were given different ones, 5 and 2 even. 2 is even a bit closer to 1. You can almost understand that. But actually the 5 and the 2 were like, right, I'm going to go at once and put this to work, and doubled what they were given. And the master was so stoked. And it was, if you look at the response of the master, he was, you could tell actually the character of the master was one of a very different type of master to maybe how the third one saw it, where there's actually, he went so far as to say, let's share in this happiness, share in my happiness, share in this reward, which tells me a little bit of something about the master that the third person actually didn't get, which I often think, maybe our approach to God is one of like a big bad dad or a school teacher that's waiting for us to trip up, where he's all for us. He wants us to succeed. He wants us to win. And in fact, he made us in his image and had the abilities to do it. And I'll come on to maybe a little bit that later. But so Matthew 25 gives me a bit of encouragement in terms of like, well, how do we manage this time? And I was really thinking about it, and I thought, well, let's get a bit practical. And so many people now work for a company called Estelle, and we're a JSE listed company. And my CEO is not my direct boss, but I have a decent working relationship. And so his name's Richard Rushton. And I actually asked Richard, I told him what I was going to be doing and speaking about. And I said, Richard, as a CEO, can you have give me your thoughts, give me 3 things that you would really like to see, people that work for you sort of act like, or the behaviors and how they respond to this time particularly, that will help you as a CEO, and I suppose help the kind of wider purpose of getting through this time, especially in the workplace, and helping companies survive. And I did tell him I was, I like Matthew 25 and I was using it. And the nice thing about my CEO, he's a CEO that I don't have to work for. It's I want to work for him. When there's the 3-4 o'clock in the morning situations, he's in the trenches with us. He's never asked us to do things that he would never do himself. And I could trust him. I think that's the nice thing. He's an imperfect man, like I am, and like many bosses and many people we all work with. But he's a good man, and I trust him. And so I asked him, you tell me, what are the top 3 things you want, and how I can encourage the people I'm doing this devotion to. And he gave me three interesting parallels, and there's a lot of wisdom. I don't want to share them. And the first thing he said to me was, Frank, the thing I look for are team members that use their talents, especially in uncertain times, is that actually they put themselves out there and they don't take the safe route. And that's interesting, because if we look at Matthew 25, the way the 2 servants acted just suggests that they didn't waste time. They just did it, okay? The second thing was also to be responsive, which is exactly what I was kind of saying, is that do it quickly. Richard said he said that he looks for team members that also don't wait for others. They get on it and just do it themselves, and they use speed and discretion at the same time. Richard often says this saying, which I'm going to use right at the end. He always says, don't let perfection be your enemy, which I think is quite wise. I think that's kind of when he said that to me, it's sort of what I read through is that I think we just sort of get on with it. And if we want to try and be perfect all the time, it's gonna stop us. And I think for staff to be responsive and just take quick action is good. And the third thing is, which is I think important, especially coming from a CEO that recognizes what he values in team members, is you sort of referred to the towards right at the end of Matthew 25 about how we to have compassion and empathy for others, and particularly in people's journeys. So I think for him as a CEO, he recognized those people that think outside of themselves and then also take care of other people. And he felt particularly now's the time for that, for people that are losing jobs or battling and suffering in some way, and it's basically how to help the vulnerable and to what we can do in our communities, whether it's a teammate, whether it's in our church, whether it's in our neighbor. Sort of just encourages ask people how they're doing. You'll be surprised at the answer. And it's funny he said that because I think twice this last few weeks I spoke to two colleagues. One's in a company and one is out, and one is out. They actually both admitted that sometime in the last few weeks, and these are high executives, actually cried. And cried at various things. The one said, I actually, what moved me was thinking about the people that are potentially going to lose their job. That's what drove this person to cry. And the other person was also just, I think, the uncertainty and the level of pressure. And these were people that have never spoken to me about this before. They're very senior. We never have these conversations. But this time's also brought out a bit of a kind of, we're all real people. And I think that's I think it gives opportunity for us as people who are designed in God's image to just be those people and do the right thing. Richard, that's the other thing. The feedback Richard gave me was, just to always at this time seek to do the right thing, and that talks to ethics, empathy, whatever. So yeah, that was like the kind of three big things that my CEO kindly gave me feedback just to share in this video. And I think to sort of draw to kind of a conclusion, or to kind of say, well, what's the point, Frank, of the encouragement and maybe what to take out and to be in this time, is I think the first thing is to recognize this is uncharted territory. Okay. I'm sure Moses, I'm sure Moses, when he got to, before he parted the sea, he didn't go, yeah, well, that last time that I parted that sea, okay, I remember how this worked. There was none of that. And this is the same. I don't know many people that have, even the people that were in the Spanish flu time, it was a very different time, similar kind of, parallels, but the way they dealt with is very different to us. So the thing to recognize is we're all in the same boat. We're all in this together. This is new for everybody. But here's the thing, guys. Kath actually, the wise wife, always, reminded me earlier today that there's opportunity in that, and this is the time to be creative. Remember, these are new problems. No one's seen this before. So potentially they need new solutions. And this is where, God was so creative. We are made in his being, which is exceptionally creative mind. And so we can draw on that and say, well, actually, we can be used and give new solutions. And just because we might feel out of our depth doesn't mean that we can't do it. I've been asked to do certain work this last few weeks that I'm not really used to doing. And I actually, in one of my first calls in a sort of bigger group, I must admit, I WhatsApped this one colleague and said, I'm the wrong person for this. I'm out of my depth. I'm not the expert in this. What these people are talking about is very new to me. But somehow I was able to be a part of the team and contribute to something. So, new problems and uncharted territory bring an opportunity for new solutions. And you can be that person. As long as you're not the third servant who is selfish, is maybe do something, think of something, and suggest something. The second thing is something on a practical sense, and I want to maybe draw this into more of a how to be an encouragement is early on in my career, I was a manager of mine, or I doubt he'll ever listen to this, is a guy called Nemo Saeed. When I once did a headhunting job, he taught me from early on, he said, Frank, we have a responsibility to manage up. Meaning, don't be a passenger. Just because you have a manager or a CEO, you have also a responsibility to lead and also manage up. And I kind of wanted to sort of put this into sort of maybe more practical, is actually be a blessing. Be a blessing to your boss, and not in the case of just doing what they ask for, but actually encouraging them and saying, how are you? And I think just not only doing your work and doing it well, but actually just being a person as well and looking out for them and looking out their blind spots. I think that's an important encouragement. The third thing is, and I want to steal this directly from Richard, is I want to bring this in as an encouragement. Don't let perfection be your enemy. Don't let perfection be your enemy. The servants went at once. They did it at once. They didn't kind of think too long and kind of, spend days and weeks fast. They just, you've given this to me. You entrust me with it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go do it. Just get on with it. Fear paralyzes. The fear or this journey or this want to be perfect all the time can paralyze you. And we're all in the same boat. It's quite interesting. I think of this time a little bit as well as, loaves and fishes. Jesus did that miracle twice. We can just bring what we have, the loaves and fishes. Let him do the rest. Let's just get on with it. We're all in this together. We're all we're all in this uncertain time together. So let's do it. The fourth thing, just a bit like the feedback that my CEO gave and also in how the first two servants acted is, think outside yourself. Ultimately, in Matthew 25 from 31 onwards, just to kind of summarize, we're going to be measured by what we do for others, and particularly the most vulnerable. And what I've noticed in pretty much everything is when I heard one guy, a business guy, speak to me once, and he said something like, when you partner with the poor, God always turns up and he blesses it. And I think that's maybe, when you partner with the poor, the vulnerable, and if I kind of summarize from 31 onwards, that's ultimately what I think Jesus is saying is those people that are vulnerable and don't have, you partner with them, that's ultimately what's going to be, how we're going to be measured one day. But it's not just about being measured and judged, but it's also, I think God gives us the tools to do that. And that's kind of fun. We partner with helping other people. I once heard a definition of calling as your God-given talents intersecting with other people's needs. So you could think about it from a pure judgment point of view, but actually think about it from how to partner with what God wants to do, which is helping other people. It's it's in the royal law. It's the first, the most important commandment. It's the second most important commandment. And so think about it as how your talents can intersect other people's needs, and God turns up and blesses it and multiplies it. That's kind of what I'm saying. And the last thing I want to say from a practical point of view is, in all of this stuff, in terms of this funny period that we're in, is ask God for the wisdom to balance all of this being fruitful and multiplying and work stuff with your family. How to balance it with your family. If I can just be really real, as I sit here now recording this, I haven't got it right. And I'm not doing the whole Christianese thing of, I haven't got it right, but actually I am. No, I haven't got it right. I'm being rubbish at it right now. The work demand that the last 8 weeks have put on me has definitely affected it. It affected my family. It's affected my wife. My son constantly asks me not to work. He has even taken my phone away and hid it. He He's even hung up on calls that I've got, which has been quite relieving in some ways. But it affects our families, and I'm not sure how to figure this out right now. But God's told us to prioritize our family, so we somehow got to find the wisdom and navigate this. I want to also balance that with recognizing this as a season. Like everything, like all the challenges in the Bible, even the cup that Jesus asked God to pass from him, that even came to pass. And the sun always shines, the sun always comes up in the morning. There's always, you always come out of the valley and you can stand on the mountaintop at some time, at some stage. So we just got to ask God how to manage this time, and he will be there, and if we're in his plan, if we just give him what we have, like the loaves and the fishes, and if we just respond to that like the servants, I'm confident that that we can partner with him, because it's his promises, it's his word, and it's how he's created us, that we'll come through this, and we can encourage other people and love our families and just be a helpful part of not just community but also the marketplace. So this is I pray this for you guys. I speak a blessing over anyone watching this video that's finding it really tough right now. And all we can do is give the world what we've got, what is in our hands. Just look at your hands and just, what has God given me? And I think to those people who find themselves without work, and frustratingly so, is that's the only thing I can say, is that encouragement is that all of us, if you look at any example in the Bible, it's always been people that have been unqualified, but who love God and then give God what they have, and God multiplies it. Like that to me is the New Testament, mostly, and being redeemed. So hopefully that's cool. Hopefully that encourages you. Just lots of love over you, over your families, over your workplaces, over your bosses, and this will come to pass. And I don't promise that, but I know God does. Okay, bless you.